What's up, folks? My name is Justin Garcia, a.k.a. Master Chim, and on the line I have with me my compatriot, white boy Pat Patrick Kelly.
What's up?
And welcome to another episode of Pressure Project Radio. The Pressure Project, as in thepressureproject.com is our website. Info at thepressureproject.com is our contact email. TheWarriorProject.com is our membership site. Check it out. What's going on, Patrick, please?
Got a whole bunch of stuff. We got PressureCon coming up soon.
We got PressureCon coming up next week.
Yeah.
I've been corresponding. What's that?
Hear myself a little bit in your monitor.
Don't be talking shit about my monitor.
No offense to your monitor.
So I've been interacting with some of the guys corresponding about next week and just getting them, getting lodging squared away and giving them the rundown of the schedule. But should be an action-packed day. I'll be dealing with that probably the rest of the week, just organizing everything. And it's something I'm really looking forward to. It's going to be a great time this year. And we got some shirts. Our new shirt, it's going to be released there first, and it'll be on sale after that. But pretty excited about it. It's going to
be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Last year was amazing. This year is going to be even better.
Yeah, it should be pretty cool. So let's see who's on right now. We got Ricardo in the house, of course. My man Beard, Carl, Jillian. Hello, Jillian. Big Dog Alpha. What's up, big dog? Big Sean out in Jersey. What's going on? What's up, David? Mitch, my man. Good. Mitchell started packing for the trip. Good. Looking forward to seeing you. What's up, Jamie? Up in Canada. What's up, Anthony? How you doing, brother? And all right, so we got some stuff to discuss today. What else? Any announcements and stuff? Oh, okay. Well, let me just remind everybody, if you haven't seen already, The Bronx Strangler has been released, and it's funny because what I do every month is when I release the power program for the membership site, which is thewarriorproject.com, I also sell it to people who are non-members. But the thing is, if you are a non-member, you're going to pay $47 for the power program. A month of membership on the Warrior Project is also $47. So, it's going to make sense for you guys to just get all the information for $47. And I say that because every month a bunch of guys buy the power program, and I'm just trying to, give you guys more value for your money. So rather than just, and I guess you guys watching the show are going to be the ones that hear this, not that the information isn't out there anyway, but it just makes more sense to just join the site for a month. You can watch the power program. You could then watch every power program. Obviously, the reason I do that is because, the power programs are worth at least $47. The last instructional I sold was I think it was $197, the Chim Pass Domination DVD. And, so the price that I'm charging for the power program, is definitely less than I could get for it. But I'm really trying to incentivize people checking out the site, so it makes more sense to join the site. Obviously, I want a lot of people that are congruent with the Warrior Project's mission, in the Warrior Project. So I'm going to do everything in my power to incentivize that, right? Which, by the way, is a strategy very much congruent with the loyalty matrix and everything else I talk about, right?
It all makes sense. It all fits together.
Right. Aaron, what's up, Donald? What's up, Richard? What's going on, David? Herman Adelsberg says, Doug here, banned again.
He gets banned a lot.
Why do all my friends get banned on Facebook? I tell you, I got the magic last name. The fact that my last name is Garcia, I think allows me to get away with fucking murder on Facebook. Because I've never been banned. And there have been times in the past, and you know this, we've started up other things on other sites and I was saying almost every week, guys, if we get banned, go here. If we get banned, go here. But it's never fucking happened.
No.
Not that I'm trying to jinx myself. Right? All right. So One of the things, what's up, Big Josh? One of the things I wanted to discuss today, we got some man codes later for you guys. That's turning into a fan favorite, and I enjoy doing them. So we'll do that a little bit later on. But first, I wanted to discuss this guy. What's up, Big Max? I wanted to. Mitchell says the Farrah half likes to count how many times you say congruent. Hey, I'm consistent in my congruence.
100%.
Congruent? You know, it's funny. It's funny you say that, Mitch, because a few years ago, I gave a talk. I was talking on stage at some event, and the whole talk was on the word congruent. You know, because obviously I'm such a fan of the concept. And I think there's so much power there. And I think it's one of the biggest weaknesses of our society is that people are not congruent. They say one thing and they do another, right? So I wanted to talk about this guy, Dr. I got his info right here. Dr. Umar Johnson.
Dr. Johnson.
So Umar Johnson, Dr. Umar Johnson, is he calls himself a Pan-Africanist, right? Pan-Africanist.
Pan-African.
And he is somebody, a black guy, obviously, who is very much a supporter of the notion that blacks in America should identify themselves as Africans. That's where they need to be. That's where they're from. And, you know, he has a lot of positions, I got to say, that I agree completely with, right? But he also has a lot of, hail, Adrian, what's up? And he also has a lot of, I would say, you know, processes or logic that has just terrible LOT, right? So, if you guys, very quickly, if you don't know what LOT is logical order of thinking, and it's a system of sort of organizing your thoughts properly, designed by Pamanatu and Chris Sayak. And basically, it's not critical thinking. It's the processes that we have that allow us to use our critical thinking, right? But the whole thing is, you know, when you're empowered with LOT training, you know, you could very easily identify when you see people who have terrible LOT training. I myself have plenty of issues that my LOT is inconsistent, you know, on. But the fact that I surround myself with, what's that?
I said, as do I.
Right, as does everybody. It's not just you, Pat. As much as I try to make you think that sometimes. You know, but the thing is, you know, you surround yourself with a good tribe. You surround yourself with the rituals that allow you to sort of reflect on, you know, where exactly your filters and biases are steering you in the wrong direction. You know, everybody, like, nobody's perfect. Everybody, it's always a process, right? Well, with Dr. Umar Johnson, I think a lot of the things he says are brilliant. You know, I really do. I think he's saying some stuff that is not very popular. He is very, very well supported by the black community. But recently he was on the Roland Martin show. Now, Roland Martin is this little black guy who's on little black just insulting, not even trying to be. But he was on his show called News One Now, and that's on TV One. I guess that's a channel. You ever heard of that?
No.
Right. No. Well, it says Monday he was on TV One's News One Now.
But I've never heard of Black Twitter either. So
what? There's Black Twitter?
On the show, he was like, on Black Twitter was blowing up, and I was like, what's Black Twitter? I didn't know that existed.
It's like that section of the cafeteria in high school. It's technically the same room, but so he was on this show, and Roland Martin is a just typical, you know, one of these race baiting, shucking and jiving type black thought leaders and figures who, you know, oftentimes, are just trying to just leverage, the anxiety, the turmoil, the discontent of the black community into business success for himself. I look at a guy like Roland Martin and, who he's been over the years in the few, like, I'm not a fucking Roland Martin fan, but when I've seen him, and his presentations and his shows and his content, he's very much the typical, the world's out to get us, yada, 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 super like Democrat, whatever the fuck. So see, Doug, that's why you get banned.
I'm thinking the same thing. I was like, yep.
Shit.
Yep,
He's exactly the wire, by the way. That's Roland Martin. So this guy, Dr. Umar, I would love to get him on the podcast, by the way.
Awesome.
I would love to have a conversation with him. And I think it would be an incredible conversation, but we'll see. We'll see if he wants to come on the Pressure Project. But during this conversation, one of the things I noticed, there were two things I wanted to discuss from this appearance by Dr. Umar on Roland Martin's show. And number one is his position and how it became so controversial and he was being attacked, this notion that black men should marry black women. And that if you are a black man who is married to a white woman, you cannot say that you are fully vested in the success or the climb of the black community, the black people. Now, I don't understand why this is controversial.
I don't either.
So I remember having a conversation with my father years ago, and it was the first time I said like out loud to them, like, I'm not Puerto Rican, like, I'm American, and my father was like, what the fuck you mean you're not Puerto Rican? Of course you're Puerto Rican. I'm Puerto Rican. I said, listen, number one, I visited Puerto Rico once when I was about 9 years old, and it was fucking terrible. It looked like the South Bronx with palm trees. Not that there's not nice parts of Puerto Rico. So I didn't grow up in Puerto Rico. Certainly wasn't born in Puerto Rico. I don't speak Spanish, right? The Spanish was not spoken in my house. So I can't even speak the language of Puerto Ricans. Aside from that, and my father didn't like this one, I said, you wanted me to be so Puerto Rican that you married an Irish-Italian white lady from Brooklyn. Like, get the fuck out of here. So the whole thing is, I don't think that it needs to be this emotional, controversial position. It's like if you are a black man, right, and you want to identify yourself as somebody who is helping the black community, which helps the black community more? Marrying a white woman or marrying a black woman? Like, this is very logical. Now, obviously, I love listening to Dr. Umar Johnson because he is a smooth talking motherfucker. Like, man's got some hustle to him, right?
Yeah.
And
he's got a good cadence to his voice.
Oh man, the guy knows how to talk, right? And completely the opposite of me, who I usually get annoyed with the people I'm trying to explain shit to. But with him, very, very, just has it down. I'm trying to avoid just saying articulate because that sounds like
he's a pontificator.
Like, it sounds belittling if I say, he's so articulate.
Pontificator. That's the word. He's a pontificator.
The dude is a fucking smooth talker, right? So he's articulating this position, and he's on the set there, on the stage, and on the show with all black people. All right, there's the host, Roland Martin. Then there's three other people, two guys and a woman. And the people on the panel, right, the two guys and a woman, are being hostile. They're not trying to discuss things, and that's the thing. One of the hurdles that I have running this show, right, running the Pressure Project, is a lot of times I am much more interested in developing my own philosophy and pursuing truth than I am being entertaining for entertainment's sake. Right?
True. Yeah.
And that bites me in the ass every once in a while. But the thing is, when I look at a lot of these shows, they're not interested in having conversations. It's really this It's like innately narcissistic. This whole entertainment industry where, they're not saying, probably what makes the most sense. They're saying what's going to get the biggest reaction. They're saying something that's going to get them invited to next show. It's going to improve ratings. It's like, this is what's directing the rhetoric. This is what's directing the conversation. But when I look at him, I just, Umar Johnson, I look at him and I see somebody who has a lot of potential. And I've said this before about him. The thing is, his LOT, though, is lacking in so many of his other positions. This victimhood that is prevalent in a lot of the Black American narrative, it really needs to be done away with. And, saying that, he's, the white, what did he call it? White systematic.
Yeah, nothing systematic has ever been done by a white person to prevent racism.
Right. And they were saying, well, what about the Civil Rights Act? And he was saying, and he had a good point, too. He was like, oh, that was for us? Then how come the women and the gays use the same fucking thing? It's like, that's the category we're put in, right? Which was fucking hysterical. But
yeah, it was really funny. And then he called me that coon.
Yeah. Oh, right. So then he has that one guy who calls him a liar, right? And he calls Dr. Umar a liar. One of the guys on the panel calls Dr. Umar a liar. And Dr. Umar calls him a coon. He goes, well, you're a coon. Right? Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm crying. I'm watching this. I'm hysterically crying. Now, one of the guys just sent me this morning. So I just saw it this morning. It happened Monday. And when, and then Roland Martin, has this big, wait a minute, I don't care what anybody says. There will be no racial epithet said on this show. And
he gets really, really tough about it. Like, no,
really, no. And Dr. Umar, you could tell, is trying to keep his composure, but is like wants to lose his shit on these people. But in my mind, I'm like, look at this. In your world, being called a coon is worse than being called a liar. I'd rather be called a coon or some racial fucking thing than a liar any fucking day of the week, But this is where we are in the rhetoric, This is how out of touch, so many people are in the mainstream with what actually matters. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
So, now there's some controversy with Dr. Umar himself in that there was the questioning the legitimacy of his education. He raised all this money and nobody knows what the fuck it is.
$750,000.
Yeah, like there was some scandal that he was like banging a stripper or something, and I don't.
Oh, she's black. I mean, it's congruent.
Right. I mean, I don't have the research and investigative budget to find out, if he's legitimate and what he represents to be. But when I take his points for what they are and his positions and stances for what they are, there's so much that is great there. And there's also so much where it's like, oh, what are you doing, man? It can't be popular in the Black community. Sit there and say, listen, like you got to stop dating outside your race, and you need to do for your people over other people, and like it can't be popular because first of all, a lot of Black women, Black men love white women. A lot of interracial relationships are very prevalent nowadays. And a lot of that has to do with I would contend, and this is why I don't think it's controversial what he's saying. When I look at a Black man and a white woman getting together, I don't think there's any innate or inherent sort of fetish that, one of them has to have by default. I think, when you look in America, there are these urban environments where these people are thrust into the same environment, and a lot of times their individual cultures are completely dissipated just by the bombardment of commercialism and just overpopulation in some of these areas. And, like if you have, Blacks that grow up with whites, obviously there are going to be relationships that happen, and they're completely legitimate, in terms of their sincerity and their intent. And I look at my parents, I mean, come on, like shit's going to happen. It's not like, you got a bunch of Black guys in Harlem going, we're going to find us some white women. And then you go to either fucking Riverdale, right? Or fucking Bensonhurst or some shit like that, you know. So I don't think it's something that is innately controversial that these racial marriages and interracial relationships occur. My point is, you know, I don't understand why it's controversial also to say that obviously you are reducing the strength of your culture if you are creating generations that come after you that are not exclusively members of your culture. Like, I don't understand, you know, like how it just makes, like, why is this controversial to somebody? Now, saying that, you know, well, listen, blacks and whites shouldn't be allowed to be married, and like that's a whole other fucking thing.
Yeah,
you know,
that's different.
You know, that's retarded. You know,
if you just take a glass of fucking Kool-Aid. No, take a glass of alcohol, take a glass of water, and pour half water, half alcohol. Is it now diluted? Yes. Now do that again. Now do that again. Like, you know, so right. I mean, common sense.
And one of the things that you'll see when a lot of blacks have this conversation is the emotional reaction to being, you know, for somebody to point out that, listen, if you're marrying outside your race, you know, you're really undermining the potential you have to be a figurehead of strength amongst your people, right? You know, and listen, I'm not saying that, you know, if you're a black guy, you got to stay committed to black people. I don't give a shit, to tell you the truth. It doesn't fucking matter to me. Do whatever the hell you want, you know? It doesn't matter to me. But if we're now deciding, you know, which helps the group more than the other, I don't understand how anybody could think any other way, you know? So,
yeah, 100%.
You know, you see the logical non sequiturs too on the show. Where did anybody post the link to that
video that we're talking about?
The one I'm talking about? Yeah, we should post a link. If somebody has it, do me a favor, post it in the comments so people can check it out. But there was also a non sequitur where, you know, he talks about, you know, the marriage, the interracial marriage, and the woman on the panel talks about all the things, or whether or not white people can understand what racism is. And it's not what he said. It's not, you know, like, I don't understand what that has to do with anything. You know, so this idea that a white person can't understand what racism is, obviously that's retarded. Of course they can understand what racism is. Are they going to experience racism the same way black people experience racism? Well, no, it's not, you know, it's not, ironically, it's not that black and white, right? You know, a white person getting, you know, experiencing racism is different from a black person experiencing racism because our cultures are different. You know, our lifestyles are different. Our rituals are different. Our identities are different. You know, to say that, you know, one is bad and one is good, or one's worse than the other, like, that's all bullshit. That's going to change from individual to individual, you know. But regardless of that, you know, saying that if you're somebody who marries outside of your race, you know, you're not doing everything that you can to support your race. I don't understand why that's a controversy. Like, it's really just somebody opting out, you know. It's like, you can't be I'm a representative of the strong black men and the strong black community, and, you know, I want to dedicate my life to uplifting my people. But I'm going to marry this white girl from Riverdale, and don't worry about that. You know, what do they call them? What do they call the white girls? Black people, like,
there's a name for it.
There's a name for it, like a nickname.
Well, the girl on the thing said, well, the guy who said, you can't talk black and sleep white.
Right. So that's he was referring to white people who represent themselves as defenders, you know, of the black.
Oh, I took it as can't talk black and then fuck a white woman.
No. They were saying, you know, you can't be like, he's talking about white liberals, you know.
Oh.
But what do they call them? They call them something. It's like just in the vernacular, like slang for a white girl. I think a Becky. I think they call them Beckies.
Becky?
A Becky. Yeah. I'm almost certain that's what it is. But it's talking about white liberals. There's another video that was shared the other day I think by Cernovich, Mike Cernovich. He shared a Malcolm X video, and in the video he's talking about white liberals, and he's saying that I think the metaphor he used was the fox and the wolf. He said, both of them are trying to put a lamb on their plate, but the fox befriends the lamb. The fox acts like it's the lamb's friend. But at least the wolf, they know right off the bat, what they are in relation to one another and what the deal is. And he was calling white liberals foxes, saying that they're the ones that act like they're befriending us. And it's really just a form of control. They're trying to control us all the while smiling and trying to be our friends. So I found that to be obviously, on point. And you guys that have been watching my content for a while know I share Malcolm X videos all the time because my man had a lot of solid fucking thinking done, and his talk about congruent, right? The thing is, when you talk about universals and you're making logical observations, you could find different applications for them. And, you look at a guy like Malcolm X, one of the things I love about so many of his positions is that universally they were sound. In other words, we could take what he was saying and apply it to different groups, and you'll see the truth played out, differently, over and over again. All right, so what else is going on?
You hear about the Shia LaBeouf thing?
No, what did that fucking psychopath do now?
So he got arrested, and he's in the back of the cop car saying, "How are you going to do this to the white man? How are you going to send your people to jail?" Like, fucking going crazy. Talking about how your president doesn't care about you, or your president's with us. How are you going to do this to the white people? How are you going to do this to me? Like, cursing, going nuts, telling the cop he's going to shoot him. Like, just lost his fucking mind.
What's the matter with that fucking dude?
He's out of his fucking mind. He's a fucking, but yeah, it was really, I got millionaire lawyers. But yeah, he said, "How are you going to do this to a white person?" He says, "How are you going to send a white person to the pen?" Like, fucking out of his mind.
He was trying anything. I think that's what it is.
He's like, if I had my something, I'd blast you or something like that. It's like, oh, all right.
So Herman Adelsberg says there is no racism against white people now here, except all these Arab and African immigrants with much higher birth rates into your country to assuage your white guilt, right? So that is, it's what we talk about here all the time. So many times, Jared Taylor does a great job of articulating, why it's understandable that, a white person in America is going to fight, for a white majority or maintain a white majority. And again, I guess if you're not white, it becomes a very emotional, statement to hear. But I've said before, if you fill your country with Japanese people, your country is going to look more like Japan. If you fill your country with more fucking Dominicans, your country is going to look more like DR. If you take any group of people anywhere in the world and you populate your country with more of them, well, your country is obviously going to take on more of a resemblance of where these people came from, because their culture, their customs, their languages, their rituals, like all these things are brought along with them. So why somebody now, mind you, if you say like, listen, I don't want immigrants coming to America from all these degenerate places, these degenerate third world places, you are basically saying you too want to maintain the white majority in this country. You're saying the same fucking thing. Now, where this argument goes sideways somewhat is when you talk about birth rates, right? Because now, you have people these days who've been fed this idea that you got to be, 35 before you have a child, and the woman's got to have a career first because somehow that's in any way, shape, or form as significant as giving birth to another fucking life, And you find in a lot of the the white groups, the white culture in America, they're having less and less children. I've got 3. You've got your crew is growing. And the whole thing is, I tell everybody, you got to have kids. When I hear all of these people on the right, especially the alt-right people, and I don't know who's alt-right, who's alt-light now. Like, I don't keep up with
That's getting ridiculous.
Like, whoever they are, that whole fucking group. Sometimes, I'm hearing them talk about this, preserve white this, preserve white that, and it's like, do you even have any children? Are you even married? Are you doing anything to make sure the next generation is prepared properly? Or are you just sitting here going to parks on the weekends and fighting with fucking, nerds, that have little fucking, handkerchiefs over their face? Like, what is it that you're doing that is actually going to stand the test of time? But I don't want to get off on a tangent on that. But the whole thing is, it's so fucking logical. You got to have more kids. If these people are coming here, because by the way, with the subsidized living that you have in the aquariums here in United States, these people come here, they get health benefits, they get food stamps, or not food stamps, the EBT cards, they get all of these services. They are having as many kids as they could possibly have. And they make absolutely no bones about it. From where they're coming, they have, like, the standard of living here is so much higher than where these people come from, kind of why they're here, right? That they don't give a fuck if they got to live in the hood. They don't give a fuck if they don't have a car. They don't give a fuck if they got to wear hand-me-downs or they got to eat fast food. All of this is inherently better than the reality they had in their native country. But without expecting them to assimilate, without removing the social safety net that we give these people and forcing them to sort of, make their own way, what we're doing is we're just allowing them to maintain and carry along the culture from their country here, because there's no incentive, there's no consequence for them not assimilating, right?
Yeah, there is. Sometimes they're rewarded for that.
Rob Pena says, if the children people are having do not have the proper guidance, then it's no different than not having kids. I'll disagree there. I'll disagree, because if you wind up having children, like, here's the thing, the proper guidance, is Jeffrey Dahmer, did he grow up in an abusive environment? Like, that was the recipe for creating a serial killer? I don't know. How many people come up in less than ideal circumstances and wind up being leaders and wind up being, the first strong link in their chain?
It's true.
I'm of the mindset, and we got some interesting man codes today that really address this a little bit more. But the whole thing is, a lot of people, they don't want to have kids. Why? Because you can't take a vacation, because you can't drive a fancy car, because you can't have jewelry, because you can't, have a 60-inch TV, and you can't, eat out at nice restaurants every night. Like, what is it? What is it that is worth more than a child to you? And the whole thing is, when I look at, I got 4 kids, right? And the way I run my business and the way that I am, there's times of feast and there's times of famine. And through the good, through the bad, at no point can I ever forget that I have 4 incredible children that are worth every little bit of struggle I could ever possibly go through. At no point, am I ever thinking like, man, I really wish I could give up one of these kids so I can go on vacation once a year with the family, And the whole thing is, you look at my kids, I make a decent living, but my kids aren't wearing brand new, name brand shoes and clothes, and my family isn't going on vacation once or twice a year. And, my wife wants to bring the kids to a Disneyland, right? We got to bring them to Disneyland. I'm like, isn't that some bullshit? She and I argue about this all the time. I'm like, you have been convinced that, and it's the fucking brilliance of Disney's marketing. Everybody has been convinced that going to Disneyland is a mandatory rite of passage for children, you know. And it's complete fucking bullshit. You know, it's complete bullshit. I said, listen, my kids want to go to fucking Disneyland? Absolutely. As soon as they move out, that could be their first fucking trip with their friends. But I'm not going down to fucking Disneyland, dealing with all these fucking idiots, buying a little fucking hat with the fucking ears on it, you know, walking up and down with my kids, just buying this, buying that, like, in this completely fucking just artificial environment. Like, I can't be bothered. I'd rather go camping, right? I'd rather go to the lake, do some fishing, get on a fucking canoe, like hang out on the beach at the lake. Fuck that, you know? I can't imagine how anybody would rather be at Disneyland than, you know, at a swimming hole that has a waterfall in the middle of the woods. And like, why the fuck? Why would you ever want to be at Disneyland instead of that? You know, dysfunction, complete dysfunction.
You going to Disneyland is not a good idea in general. I couldn't imagine that being good for anyone there. For you, great training. Everyone else, not so much.
It's not a small world, motherfuckers. It's a big world. Get the fuck away from me. Brian Wilton. Oh, Brian, where is it? Oh. So I got this yesterday. Give my man a shout out.
Nice.
Bam. Now, I didn't buy this one specifically, right? But these are Brian Wilton's books. This is from Brian and Stephanie Wilton. It's one of his new books there. I have High Adventure, Becoming a Man to Embrace a Faith, also by my man Brian Wilton. And finally, and this will be the first one I'm reading, Nobility. Nobility. So if you guys haven't checked out Brian Wilton and his books, I own many of them. And, you know, it's a great read. If you are somebody, obviously, who is, following Odinism or Asatru, a lot of his subject material, you know, deals specifically with that. But, you know, great author and great books. So Brian says that's one of the most important thoughts. We are all they have, our children. And that's the thing. You know, most people, they've been convinced to value things that if they sort of just, you know, put the timeline in reverse, they would see when somebody with some sort of usually commercial intent convinced them that something had value. And it was just built upon over and over and over again over the years to the point where people think that going to Disneyland is important, right? It's like there's so many things people can do with their children for the money they spend on one of these Disney vacations, you know, and so many things that are worthwhile. Like you can go to the Grand Canyon, you can go to like discover things, like you can travel, you can go to Europe, you know, for fucking price some of these people pay to stay at Disneyland, you know. It's really just a sign of the times and how just misguided we are, you know, as to what actually gives us a return on investment, right?
Yeah, dinner with Mickey Mouse is like fucking 10 grand or some shit.
Yeah, like, fuck that.
A guy in a suit. It's not, you know, it's Mickey Mouse doesn't come over. It's a fucking dude in a suit. You're gonna pay like $5 grand. It's crazy.
Yeah, fuck that.
Big band Parliament, kids.
Right, like these are the things you want to see, right? These are the things that mean some shit.
Yeah.
You know, take them to fucking Fredericksburg. Take them to, you know, the site of fucking the American Revolution. Like, take them someplace that fucking counts. Oh, you went to Disneyland. Oh, good for you, you fucking retards. All right, I'm getting emotional. All right, so what else is going on? You ready to start hitting the man codes?
Sure.
We got a bunch of them today, so
yeah, there's good ones.
There's a couple of them I want to
flesh out.
I was going to say tangentize. Tangentize. I'm going to tangentize the fuck out of these things. All right. So, should I type them out, you think?
Well, I'm falling
for the joke because every time I actually think that again. And then I laugh in my head and I go, no, that's retarded. All right. So, And I almost pressed end broadcast again.
That's always the same formula. It works.
Jesus Christ, I'm consistent. All right, so if you guys don't know the man codes, let me write that first. Man codes. Man codes. Man codes. We need a theme song for man codes.
Man codes.
Man codes. Man codes. Man codes. So the man codes are just really a collection of observations that I've made. And every episode, I started this a bunch of episodes back now, maybe 3-4 episodes back. And, I figured it'd be a good idea to just update a list of observations and put them in code form, right? And discuss them. Yeah, I have fun doing it, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback about the man codes. So we are up to number 38. Okay, so let me update that.
Yep.
Number
38.
38. Man code number 38. Before I do that, I'm going to take my back scratcher and hit a spot.
Awesome.
I envy all of you guys that could actually scratch your own back. The size of my arms and the condition of my shoulders, I'm lucky I could wipe my own ass. So, number 38. Love is an investment. Love is an investment. So, we have a whole episode on love, right? On the archive, on the Warrior Project, and it's an episode that we had done a few years back at this point. And I talked about what love was, how love is a codependence between two identities, how, there is a expressed vulnerability that allows two people, through the process of love to create synergy. And what this man code says is to remind people that loving something or somebody should be an investment of your resources, meaning there should be a return on that investment. If you, by your processes, love things that do not reciprocate or create any sort of synergy that you could benefit from, then you are dysfunctional in your application or execution of love. So love is Corey says, a bidet in MC's future. Stay tuned. Well, don't think I don't already have one. I didn't say I like to wipe my ass. I just said I could. Of course, this has to happen during the love man code, right? So I love my bidet because there is a return on investment.
100%.
So the whole thing is, if we have this mindset that, I love a lot of things because I'm a loving person. Well, think of it if it was money, right? And let's just say you had $100 in singles in your hand every day, and you just handed out singles to everybody. You'd feel good. They might even appreciate it. But there is no inherent return on investment in that process. Now, why is that important? Because the benevolence that you're showing with your resources, which could be love, that could very well be a resource itself. The benevolence needs to be reciprocated, or else people wind up investing in these unilateral or unidirectional ways. If all I do is give my money away, eventually I run out of money. And that's when it comes to love, because there is that vulnerability when you are loving something. We have to sort of guard that and maintain a standard by which we will not abuse ourselves. We will not find ourselves in dysfunctional situations or dysfunctional tribes or dysfunctional environments and so on. So if you're somebody who doesn't look at love as an investment, you're somebody who's going to waste it. You're somebody who's going to sabotage his own, climb up, his ladder of power because of it. However, the opposite end of that is if you do look at love as an investment, you focus on the people that matter. You focus on the relationships that matter. And that's how you wind up creating something that ironically becomes strong enough to help more and more people as those circles move out. Right? So number 38, love is an investment. So let's move on. Number 39. Number 39. Everything moves toward chaos. Right?
Yep.
Everything moves toward chaos. So Pamana Tuhan, right? Chris Sayak recently passed away. He had a saying about loyalty. He said loyalty is measured in deeds, right? He also says that everything has a shelf life. And these two sayings of his illustrate the point I'm trying to make with this man code. So if everything moves towards chaos, two things. Number one, you don't expect things to last forever. You expect things to have an expiration date, right? So you're never operating under the assumption that this thing is going to be there forever. The other thing, when understanding and accepting that everything moves towards chaos, you understand that to keep order is to maintain order, right? You don't collect order. You don't just observe order. You actually do something to maintain, to create and then maintain order. Deeds is where we're going to wind up making our lives. So the people that expect, their wives to be there forever, what is the reason for her being there forever? The people that expect to always have their job, well, what is the reason for you always having your job? The people who expect, if you're an owner, that have employees, what is the reason for the employees staying there, being there, and not leaving? There needs to be a reason, and the reason is usually very much married to deeds, the idea of what it is that we're doing and its effect on our lives. So I say that everything moves towards chaos because it reminds us that we need to keep things in perspective. Understand that there are always going to be things we can control and things we can't, right? That's commonly understood. But being that there are things that we cannot control, it means that we cannot make things last forever, right? Because that's just not the natural law. So if you are somebody who operates like, listen, the common phrase is, taking things for granted. What that means is, you're thinking that like no investment or maintenance needs to be made in these things. And I would argue anything in your life that is significant or that you value significantly should be invested in by your resources with your time, and still operating under the assumption that eventually, it's going to have that expiration date. So number 39, everything moves toward chaos. All right.
Solid and true, universally in the universe and in life.
Right. Absolutely. Number 40.
40.
All right. Number 40. The universe will have its balance. The universe will have its balance. Okay, so a lot of different things we could extract from this man code. The first thing I would say is understand that you are never going to get away with defying the nature of reality. Meaning, I'm reminded of an interview that Christopher Hitchens, the late Christopher Hitchens, did. And he was being interviewed after he had discovered he had cancer, and it was more than likely terminal. And, obviously him being one of the most prominent atheists or anti-theists, in media and journalism, the interviewer, I would say with the hint of malice, said, well, isn't it ironic that you're against God and you're against religion and all these things, why do you think, you wound up with cancer? And he was like very, matter of fact. He said, why not me? Like, who am I to not get cancer? Never mind who am I to get cancer. Who am I to not get cancer? Like, I'm a number and a statistic like everybody else, And when we look at the fact that the universe will have its balance, we understand that, listen, the ebb and flow of reality is beyond our control. The most we could do is sort of get our surfboard and ride the wave, as brilliantly and for as long as we can. But ultimately, the universe will remind us that there is a bigger picture that is going to be respected well beyond, our individual journey, Aside from that, you have these people who live a certain way. And, the term I would apply or connect to this slant on this man code is the idea of karma. All right, everybody understands the idea of karma, whereby our actions influence our future. And the reason that there is a cause and effect is rooted in this notion that the universe is going to have balance. There needs to be a counter to every action. And in our lives, if we're somebody who puts out that sort of positive, uplifting, helpful energy, and that sort of is the theme of our interactions with individuals, we could expect the probability of those type of interactions being reciprocated to increase. And the opposite, is obviously true. If you're a miserable bastard who spreads miserable energy, you're going to have miserable experiences. The universe will have its balance. You cannot be an asshole to everybody and expect everybody to be nice to you. That is a incongruent idea. Right? So understanding that the universe will have its balance, it allows us to really look at our lives and our legacies as a product of our investments. We get out of it what we put into it. You reap what you sow. All these things speak to this idea, and sometimes, you're the guy who's done nothing wrong his entire life. And your child has terminal leukemia, or your family passes in an accident, and when you understand that the universe is balancing a hell of a lot more than your individual journey, not that it just fucking removes the effect or the trauma of the event on you, but it begins to give you an understanding of the greater perspective that, we all need to move toward, to empower ourselves individually,
Yep, the many-faced God. Only a life can pay for a life. Game of Thrones coming back Sunday.
This Nerdgasm brought to you by...
Just saying, it's coming back on Sunday, Game of Thrones.
Is it already?
Yeah.
Rob Kahn is probably putting on like face paint right now or some shit for it. All right, we're up to 41. Oh,
41. Yeah, this is my second favorite of the today.
So just so you guys know, I send Pat the list beforehand so he can let it marinate a little bit. So we're on the same page by the time we get here. But number 41, why don't you read that one, Pat?
Okay. If your wife is making decisions for you, make sure you have a manly wife.
So this was inspired by last night, in the academy here. We often get guys that try class out. And the way it works in my academy is you come in, you try a class out. And if, you like it, you're offered an incentive to join, right? Very basic sales process. And we had an individual come in yesterday, and he didn't join. He came in, took a trial, didn't join. And when my guy asked him, why he didn't want to join, he said, well, I can't really commit because, my wife allowed me to come to this class today, and she said she's not going to allow me to train constantly, so I'm not allowed to join, basically. And, my guy's giving me the rundown at the end of the night, and I'm hearing this. And now, mind you, I've heard, probably 100 cases like this over the years where the guy is all excited about class, had a great time, and he starts that nonsense of
gotta talk to the boss.
You got to talk to the boss. Got to ask my better half. I can't make a decision like this on my own and stuff like that. So this is the man code, and it's obviously a little tongue-in-cheek, meant to be a little demeaning. If your wife is making your decisions for you, make sure she's at least a manly wife, right? Because the decisions that you should be making for yourself as a man should certainly reflect the manly perspective. And for those of you who do not have manly wives, why is it that she is making decisions for a man in that case? Tuan Tom at Sama Sama had a great quote.
Of course.
He was talking about the role of men and women, and he was busting his wife's chops. He said, I don't go home and just grab the vacuum cleaner out of your hand, right? And everybody's like, the only one not laughing. But he was speaking to the different roles, in this particular, training that we were doing. And he was saying, listen, I'm the man. Chuan Tam was in this particular section of Sama Sama. I'm the man, and as the man, I have a certain role in this situation. And it's to be the protector. It's to be the sort of first line of engagement with a threat. And it speaks to that. It
does. It also speaks to the fact that this guy, or people in general, sometimes don't qualify martial arts in the right box.
Right.
She's not going to allow him in his life to do something fun or have an extracurricular. That's not why he should be taking martial arts. He should be taking martial arts so he can protect her, so he can defend his family, so he can become a stronger and better man. So right in itself, he's fucking up even before he asks his wife for permission.
Right. And with where the martial arts is concerned, that is exactly right. The man code is really something that any man in any application can apply, though. Like, you are a man. You should be making a man's decision. And it doesn't, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that, listen, you do what you want. You're a man. Fuck her. You tell her what to do. It's nothing to do with that. But if at any point another person is telling you what you are allowed to do to pursue your own personal betterment, and it is not congruent with what you know to be true, then you should probably cut that person loose or grow a fucking pair. I'm of the mindset that, listen, I'm not saying that a bad relationship just needs to be flushed down the toilet. There are certainly times where that may be the case. But the thing is, the Dr. Phil quote that I use all the time, we train people how to treat us, right? Great quote by Dr. Phil.
That's awesome.
We train people how to treat us. And if you're somebody whose wife or significant other, obviously this is universal, really. If you're a woman who is having your husband make decisions for you, you make sure you have a womanly or a feminine husband. The same holds true. I can't tell my wife how to be a better woman. I could tell her what I expect in her relation to me and how she could be a better wife. But as far as how she could be a better woman, she is programmed to have sort of directions and instincts, that I am completely unaware of and don't have access to, no matter how much I look for them. But this is just, it's almost a no-brainer, right? So if your wife is making decisions for you, make sure you have a manly wife. Everybody loves talking about, I'm the boss, I'm this, I'm that. But then their wives talk to them and they talk to them like they're fucking idiots. Listen, I'm not a tough guy with my wife. I don't order my wife what to do. I'm not her boss. I'm not any of that. But she knows, as does everybody who knows me, nobody's telling me what to do. I'm going to do, if you want me to do something, explain to me why it's the right thing to do. Ask me for a favor even, but nobody tells me what to do. And that's the thing. If you want me to if you think I'm doing something bad, then explain to me, help me to understand, why I should be doing something otherwise. There are going to be some people who are going to suggest something, and I'm going to trust their opinion, and I'm going to follow their suggestion because I trust them. But as far as following orders in the pursuit of what I should be doing to make myself happy and to sort of climb my ladder of power, like nobody is going to tell me what to do where that's concerned.
Yeah, 100%. I always think it's funny. People are like, "Have a good one." You're like, "Don't tell me what to do."
That's one of my favorite lines. Hey, have a good day. Don't tell me what to do.
It's even better when it happens with strangers. That's the best. That's my favorite.
The waiters, enjoy your meal, or what? All right. Sometimes the Joe Pesci gear just jumps in without me realizing it.
Listen, we made it through the dinner at the same place. We were all right. Right? Remember? We did it.
We did it. All right. Number 42.
42.
So number 42, there is no synergy in charity for strangers. Right? There is no synergy in charity for strangers. So we've spoken about charity before. We have an episode on charity. I brought it up plenty of times, but this is yet another way to sort of package the idea in a way that people could get it, right? People can get it. They could understand. So I have the printout for the loyalty matrix here.
Nice.
And just to read the actual definition of the term stranger, what the designation, has. And in the Loyalty Matrix Power Program that's on the Warrior Project, I define a stranger as an identity that has no contact or effect with the tribe, may even not have knowledge of the tribe at all, right? So if we look at what we had spoken about earlier, where the universe will have its balance, or even love as an investment, there is this constant, recurring theme of our resources need to grow. Our resources need to be seeds that grow into different aspects of power in one's life. And if we're talking about strangers, we're talking about charity. Charity is basically the delegation of resources. And if it's to a stranger, then there is no investment there. This whole notion of goodwill, like we're going to do this for goodwill. Like, why? Like, why? Yeah. What do I care what somebody on the other side of the world thinks of me? Let's say there's a whole village dedicated to calling Master Chim a fucking asshole, cocksucker, piece of shit. Right? That's, there's 1,000 people in fucking Papua New Guinea who have a fucking statue of me, and they all throw shit at it every day, right?
Burn a Master Chim doll every night,
right? But I never meet them. They never meet me. I never go there. They never go me. Who the fuck cares?
Yeah,
who cares, right? And the thing is that there shouldn't be a care or concern because they're not connected to my life. They're not connected to my journey. They're certainly not connected to my tribe or the synergy of my tribe's, existence. They're not affecting my mission at all. What I'm looking to pursue, what I'm looking to become, what I'm looking to acquire, what I'm looking to build, they don't affect it in any way, shape, or form. Well, with charity, you should know when you are being charitable exactly how this winds up coming back around to better you and everybody in your tribe. When I look at people that give money, to, starving kids in Africa, it's like, what, renting that kid for 52 cents a day, however they say it, it's like, like when you, in the back of the comic, you order the sea monkeys.
Yeah.
It's like you send $10 and they showed a bunch of guys, a different life form, hanging out the bottom of a fish tank. but it was like fucking algae or something they were selling.
Yeah.
The whole thing is, this notion of helping people makes us feel good. It's a very selfish, almost narcissistic act.
It is.
And it's not selfish or narcissistic if there's actually a return on investment. So that's the actual virtue involved in being charitable, that you could say that this is going to make things better for the people who are connected to me. But if you're throwing fucking just money at different people, it's to feel good. And say it's to feel good. Don't say, oh, I want their life to be better. Why do you want their life to be better? It has to be because it's going to make you feel better if you're the one who made their life better. Any other position is going to be an argument for it somehow being an investment in some way and that's connected to you. So if it's somebody who is in no way, or there is no logical course to follow that can make the case of them being connected to your journey, to your tribe, to you as an individual, then all it could be is the narcissism, the selfish narcissism of somebody just wanting to feel good by making somebody else feel good. And they want to be the architect of that emotion,
Yeah, 100%. Imagine helping your neighbor instead. Wouldn't that be more beneficial to you and everyone else? You build something in your neighborhood, let's say a rec center or something for kids that are in your neighborhood directly affected by you. That's different. But you build a school in Africa that who gives a fuck?
Right. It's like, man, Africa, if it just had one more school.
One more school. Just a few more books in Africa. It'll change everything.
Oh, yeah.
Just sit on the wheel. A couple wheels.
The blueprints for a wheel. It's just a paper with a circle on it.
For kids.
Oh my God. So that was 42. Number 43. And we're going up to 45 today. So this is number 43. Did I put a money sign? Oh, yeah. Number 43. There you go. If it's hurting, it's probably helping. If it's hurting, it's probably helping. Now, this is a little counterintuitive for most people because you say, yeah, well, if I'm getting my arm sawn off, you don't sew something off, you sew something on. Sawed off. Get your arm sawed off. It's probably going to hurt, and you can't fathom how this could possibly help you. I would disagree. I would say that every person, you, me, and everybody watching this and everybody else on the planet has the person they want to be, has the person they are, and the delta between the two, the difference between the two of where you are and where you want to be, a lot of times is measured by the void of discipline that you possess, meaning the lack of discipline necessary to be who you have the potential to be. I know that I'm in a process of dropping weight right now, and I've dropped a bunch of weight so far, and I had an epiphany a lot of pounds ago. I plan on covering this eventually in the future, so I don't want to, give out too much specifics. But there was a point where I was heavier than I am now a few months ago, and I wasn't really training jiu-jitsu because I trained jiu-jitsu, and I feel like I was in a car accident. I couldn't really go for long hikes on my property because I had to sit down every fucking 30 seconds. But I would go to the gym and I'd still squat, 600 pounds. I'd still bench 400 pounds. I remember a couple of months I was doing bent rows with 405, and I racked the barbell, during one of my sets, and I look over and a bunch of people had stopped, working out, and they were looking at me do the bent rows, and they were like, in amazement. Now, obviously, the gym I was at is not full of very strong people, but the point being, I took power from that. And there wasn't a lot of pain involved. it wasn't until I realized, lo and behold, it's really the pressure to power model. It wasn't until I realized that, chances are, if something's happening to me that I haven't designed and it's hurting me, right? There's pain involved, pressure involved. There's always going to be, at a minimum, an increase in your resilience. Nietzsche says, that which does not kill me, makes me stronger. So if we dissect that, what it's actually saying is, similar to lifting a weight and knowing that if I just was breaking this down for the guys yesterday on the mat, I asked Flacco of all people, who was probably the worst person to ask this. I said, who here lifts weights at home? Right? He was one of the guys that raised his hands. And I said, let's say that, all you have was 30 pounds in your house. And in the beginning, it was tough. Then after a while, it got easy. What would you do? Now, the proper answer is you go and you get more weight, right? You need more weight. Well, when you add more weight, your ability to do it diminishes, right? That's inherent in the process of lifting weights. As you become stronger, you need to add more weight to maintain that struggle, right? So we understand in that application how the design and maintenance of that struggle is going to allow us to become stronger. So why did I make this a man code? What's the use of this as a man code? It's really to remind you that when you are going through those tough times, you're going through those times where you feel like you are struggling the most, understand that you are becoming more powerful at that same time, whether you realize it or not, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. If you take somebody who's never been punched before and you punch him, he has gotten stronger. It certainly may not feel like that for him, but being a person who has been punched before and survived, and as opposed to the person who's never been punched before, the person who's been punched is stronger because of the experience, right? And that just, a simple example of what I'm trying to say. So this is 43. If it's hurting, it's probably helping.
Yeah.
Mitch Knapp says, and I like that, he says, today's discomfort is tomorrow's strength. Right, absolutely.
100%. No pain, no gain.
Absolutely. So let's go. Oh, yeah. Number 44. Why do I keep doing a money sign?
Money.
It's good luck.
You saw Conor McGregor?
This one is money, yo.
You saw Conor McGregor yelling at fucking Mayweather's dad? Talking about money?
He was look, I'm putting money signs here. Holy shit, what is wrong with me? Yeah, he was he was fucking hysterical, as usual.
Yeah.
It's just it's a fucking circus, but it's a circus. It's a circus instead of like jugglers and like animal trainers. It's filled with fighters just yelling at each other, like, which to me is much more enjoyable than a regular circus. But it's I'm eager to see what happens. It's a sideshow. So let's move on. Number 44.
44.
Suicide is like a bad employee firing himself.
That's my favorite one for the day.
That might be my favorite one for the list.
It's really good. That's really fucking
Suicide is like a bad employee firing himself. So when we think of that, right, obviously not a fan of suicide. Not at all. It's like a bad employee firing himself. So we say a bad employee, and the context of using that to represent somebody who's suicidal is that they have a job to do, and they're not good at it. Right? And they don't wait for somebody else to affect them in some way. They decide that the best course of action is to fire themselves. Now,
from Earth.
From everything. They make the whole universe go away in an instant. And the thing is, firing yourself, there's another phrase for that, right? Another word. quit is what that is. And when you look at somebody who's suicidal, it's somebody who has said, you know what, I am in such pain, I am so bad at this, I don't have the means to sort of get myself out of this hole, this perceived hole, that I'm just going to, I'm basically going to take the opportunity to make this better away from myself. I no longer deserve the opportunity to fix this. I no longer deserve another shot at it. I am just making it worse, and I am going to just quit.
Retire. I'm going to retire.
You retire. So I remember how, talking about suicide, right? A couple years ago, I think I brought this up before, but to bring it up again, I had a good friend of mine, one of the smartest people I knew, and we would talk about martial arts. He trained jiu-jitsu, and he and I would always argue about what was the role of martial arts. And I've been very consistent over the years in that, I've always felt like, listen, we use training, we use building a relationship with violence to become stronger people, to become more valuable people, to become, better men, better warriors, better women, whatever the case is. And that's inherent in the training. And he was of a completely different mindset. He was, brilliant dude. This guy was brilliant. He went to Ivy League schools. He was an attorney, well-to-do financially. He would say, listen, I don't come here to have some guy on a mat who's supposed to be teaching me how to choke somebody tell me about virtue and tell me about being a better person and tell me about fighting spirit and all this other bullshit. I come here to train. Teach me the moves, and I want to train. I don't come here for that. That's not what this is for. Well, years after that, he blew his face off, right, with a shotgun. Now, if we're somebody who thinks we've got it all figured out, you're going to have a rude awakening when the universe shows up to have its balance, right? And when we look at this notion of a bad employee firing himself, here he has, using my friend as an example, here he is somebody who knew what his job was, but acted like he was doing it well, when in fact he was doing it poorly. He didn't have any means by which he could receive feedback as to what kind of job he was doing. And ultimately, he decided to fire himself rather than improve his ability to do his job, rather than, say, I'm going to let a lot of people down if I fire myself. Or to ask yourself, if you're a man and you have a wife and you have children, which he did, these are the people that really get to give you the feedback on your value as a man. Yeah. Is your wife happy? Are your children happy and provided for? Are they safe? All the benefits of being with you, or, if you're, a person's wife, or you're a man's children, like, what is the value of that man? And he never reached out to get any feedback about that. He just fired himself. And that's how I look at suicide. I look at suicide, rather than quitting, because quitting is certainly something that applies. But I like to go to another level of articulation and say it's somebody firing themselves. And I like using the premise of a bad employee, because it's somebody who has a job to do and isn't doing it. And they quit. And if you use that analogy and look at it literally, let's say there's somebody who has a job and does it poorly and quits. We call them a loser, right? Like, yeah, I was doing that for a while, but I was really bad at it, so I quit. Like,
living, it's a tough racket.
Tough racket. I used to be alive. Tough racket. But the whole thing is, if somebody were to quit a job and they weren't fired, right? They still had the job, and they received benefits from the job, but because they felt they weren't doing the job well enough, they fired themselves. It makes absolutely no sense. And I think suicide is very much the same way, right? So that was 44. The final one for today. Number 45. Read that one, Pat.
Resource beyond what's needed for mission is literally useless.
That's right. Any resource beyond what's needed for mission is literally useless.
Literally.
So when I'm talking about, somebody getting in touch with what their mission is and why that should be such a priority for people, another way to look at it, another observation that we can make as to the value of that process is, what matters, right? What is it that matters? What are we trying to do? And I think when we look at that situation, we ask ourselves that question and we come up with an answer. Number one, we'll find that as we think about stuff and we actually put it in front of us for us to see, a lot of times we'll be like, hey, you know what? Well, I don't really know what my mission is. I'm kind of just, treading water. I'm kind of just making sure I don't dangerous, There's one thing to avoid negative. It's another thing to do something positive, right? If you think about it in, let's say, a football game, right? Just because I stop the other team from scoring doesn't mean that I win, right?
Yeah,
I have to actually score to win. And a lot of times in life, when we're pursuing mission or we're trying to find out what the mission is, rather, people don't realize, well, you know what? I'm kind of just making sure I don't wind up in a bad situation. But the flaw in that kind of logic is, well, that's a game plan to stay alive forever. We know we're not going to stay alive forever. So having a mindset that I'm just going to make sure I don't die prematurely is pretty fucking useless. It's pretty ridiculous when you think about it. It's all about creating that legacy. It's all about pursuing the positive, right? So if I say any resource, if I establish what my mission is then, right? So for me, what are some of my missions? Obviously, to raise my sons to become strong men, to raise my daughter to become a strong woman. It's to continue my philosophy and share a lot of my thoughts about how I see the world and how I see the dynamic between individuals, and espouse that and spread that around the world. It's to have my fighters be successful and continue to bring somebody from the untrained person who walks into my school to the person who can defend his family, who can handle himself in the street, who can win a professional MMA fight, who can win, different combat competitions. These are my missions. So if these are my missions, everything that I do should be in line with those missions. So if I'm somebody who is trying to do all the things that I just described, and have the opportunity to buy a Porsche, a fancy car, I have to ask myself, is that going to put me on mission? Is my mission improved by doing this? Now, there are going to be arguments for, well, I got an Xbox right on my desk, right? I play Xbox almost every day during the work day, right? Or during the day. And someone could say, well, how does that have anything to do with your mission? And I would say, well, it really allows me to mentally survive, by taking these short breaks, putting my mind on something completely disconnected from whatever it is I'm dealing with. And it allows for a very productive reset. So there is an argument to be had for some things that are maybe not completely linearly congruent with what mission is, but have value in other applications. Sometimes to break up the monotony, sometimes, to just give you, peace of mind. Sometimes it's the equivalent of like taking a nap. Sometimes you're tired, you need to rest. Sometimes your focus is tired and needs to rest. So being that that's the case, anything beyond what is needed, we say, is useless. That means that anything that you pursue, you should be able to use. And when I look at, the way people live their lives these days. You know, in the Bronx, I had a lot of friends that, you know, grew up in the projects or in really, really shitty neighborhoods. And as, you know, we had gotten older, I'd see them buy gold chains. I'd see them buy expensive sneakers, expensive jackets. What's that?
I said Jordans. You got the Jordans.
Right. Big on the Jordans. And, you know, it wasn't until I was probably in my late teens, early 20s, where I really started asking myself, like, how fucking stupid. Like, this guy he just spent, you know, $2,000 on a gold chain. Like, you could buy a car for that. Like, you could buy an inexpensive car and probably pay a year's worth of insurance for that money. And that'll let you not only a better quality of life, you know, if you have the means to get places in a car, but it also may afford you the ability to get a better job because, you know, you could just travel a different distance, right? Whatever the case is. But it's an investment. It's, you know, a car would very much empower his mission. So many things that we were just talking about, the vacation to Disney World. Like, is that your mission? Is that congruent with your mission? Does that give you a power? Now, let's play devil's advocate for a second. Let's say you have spent absolutely no time with your family in the longest, and you want something where you could go and spend time with them, but you don't actually want to interact with them a whole lot, right? You go for the bells and whistles of a Disney experience. So there's an argument for it, right? So I'm still not going to do it, but you know, there are things that, you know, that can be said to be in line with mission that at first glance may not be. So I understand that, you know, and I accept that. You know, the whole thing is, I also think that we're smart enough and we're in touch enough to know that there are things that have absolutely nothing to do with our mission. There are things that have absolutely nothing to do with empowering us to climb our own ladder of power, you know. And I don't think people are very interested in being honest with themselves where that's concerned, because sometimes, you know, you go and you buy. For me, it was going and buying a fucking fresh fettuccine Alfredo with some homemade cheesecake, and, you know, like, hey, I'm hungry. It's like, you're fucking hungry, but like, holy shit, man, like, you're feeding yourself for the next 4 days in one sitting. You know, like, that was me rationalizing, you know, why it is I was doing what I was doing. And I literally have to start looking things at a way that just lets me put things in the useful list or the useless list. And if it's useful, but maybe I have to sort of, you know, like 6 degrees of separation useful, like, yeah, well, this will help that, which will help this, which will help that, well, then it's a matter of priority, right? I now, you know, once I have that list, I have the ability to say, well, you know what? I got to do these other things first before I do that, you know? Like vacations. I haven't been on vacation, I don't know how long, you know? Like literally 5 years ago, 6 years ago, might be 10 years ago. I don't fucking know. Do I want to go on vacation? Yeah. Would a vacation help? Yeah. But you know what? As far as my priority list is concerned, just haven't gotten around to it yet. You know, every day I take a 20-minute vacation, right? Quota 47, disconnect for 20 minutes a day. Yep. That's a 20-minute vacation I take every day, you know? So that's number 45.
45. Code 45.
So those are the man codes. We're up to 45. You know what I should do? What do you think of this? I should continue these man codes, get 365 of them, and then create like a book, like one of those daily books.
That'd be awesome.
Why not, right?
Why not?
I'll hire one of those services to transcribe these explanations, and that'll be that.
That sounds awesome.
A coffee table book.
Coffee.
All right, so a lot of comments going on. I didn't read all of them. I was trying not to get distracted. Here's a long one. Read this, Pat.
I don't quite understand how people give up on marriages and relationships these days. Having multiple baby daddies or baby mamas is stylish. Just seems like people are taking the easy way out instead of investing in building something that will last forever.
Well, here's the thing. We are designed to take the easy way out. Judo is the easy way out. All right. Jiu-jitsu is the easy way out. Shooting is the easy way out. The easy way out is not inherently a bad thing. The problem is when we take the easy way out and we ignore its effect on mission. So let's say I go to my the pressure pit here where I have all my weights in my academy, and I take all the plates away.
Yeah.
From now on, all we do is lift the bar. I sabotage my ability to get stronger because that particular application of taking the easy way out is not congruent with mission. However, if I was going to hike with my sons up in the mountains, I would probably take a GPS with me. And the reason I would take a GPS with me is because I know that I am not an expert, mountaineer. I know that, with 3 young boys, I don't want to put myself in a situation where it's an emergency and, some life-threatening situation could happen. I also know that my navigation skills are not, where I would want them to be completely comfortable. So what do? In that particular application, I take the easy way out because it is congruent with the mission, right? So, I brought this up the other day. Cell phones, right? Our cell phones, and I have an iPhone, and most people nowadays have smartphones. We have them because they allow us to do so many things, but we don't realize the cost for that convenience. When's the last time you memorized somebody's number? How many of the people you speak to often? How many of their phone numbers do you have memorized? Right? I have maybe 5 numbers memorized, right? And 2 of them are my old cell phone numbers, right? So, directions. When's the last time you pulled out a map to get from one place to another place that was completely new to you? No, you throw on the GPS, you just put the phone up and you do it. So there is a price to be paid for this. So now getting back to marriages and relationships, understand that because of the artificial nature of the aquarium, the mission is not the same when you are in the aquarium as when you are living a natural, functional life. So if we are out, in the wilderness and we're a group of people, getting married allows us to pool our resources together. Having children allows us to sort of grow the next generation of the tribe, but also basically create helping hands, around the house. We become stronger as a family unit the more of us there are. And the more committed we all stay to one another, the stronger is the synergy of that tribe, of that union. Well, nowadays, there is no consequence for not pursuing those synergies. There is no consequence for not staying married. There is no consequence for having a kid from this guy, from this guy, from this guy, or the opposite direction. There is no consequence to sort of making a baby with this girl, this girl, this girl. There's a financial burden, obviously, but when it comes to real world survival, type situations or type consequences, they're just not apparent anymore, right? Because everybody's in the aquarium, right? So all these things, I agree. Listen, I've been married 13 years, and when I see people just giving up, or I see the guy, like I always use this example, the guy who falls in love with his secretary and he leaves his wife and kids. Like, you're a fucking loser, dude. Bailing on your children because of some sort of, instant gratification need that you have. And I think a lot of it has to do with that too. People don't think about the big picture. They don't think long term. Because of all the support and safety nets that society gives people nowadays, people aren't forced to grow up. I remember when I was in 4th grade, which means I was 9, I would have to get my brother, bring him home. I had the latch key, right, the key on a shoelace. And we would go home, we'd do homework, get a snack, and then we'd play outside waiting for my mom and dad to get home. When I was 8, the neighbor picked us up and did that. But when I was 9, certainly by the time I was 10, I was going home on my own and taking care of my little brother too. Well, now, like my son, my oldest is 10. And, like I don't even trust him, going down the block to go to the store. Why? Because he just hasn't had those reps. He hasn't been doing those things. So the consequence for him doing it now are probably much greater than the consequence of me forcing him to learn it earlier, and that's the problem. We don't have the consequences to sort of incentivize moral or virtuous behavior in a society,
I had my son go downstairs to the car to get something, and it was fun. We watched him through the window. I could see what he did. It was pretty safe, but same thing. Like, that was his first real rep of, like, going across the street and going in the car to get something.
Right. Ricardo says, a movie called The Void just dropped on Netflix. Interested in opinions. I never heard of that. You heard of that, Pat?
I saw the picture, but I haven't watched it yet.
What's it about,
No, I have no idea.
Yeah,
but I'll check it out.
Yeah, I never heard of it. Herman Adelsberg, currently on day 76 of a 90-day cut. The struggle is real. Yeah, fucking A, man. Tell me about it.
Awesome.
I'm about, I want to say like maybe 35 days into this.
That's about accurate, yeah.
This eating plan that I'm on.
You've been crushing it, because we've had times where we were out and you didn't break.
Yeah, and that's usually the time where I'm like, what's a piece of cake right now? But no problem. What else is going on? Is there any comments? I'm going down here. Herman says, in order for something to be gained, something must be given. That's the balance. You reap what you sow is a long time saying for a reason. Too many people, especially like if you think about it, if you're somebody who lives in a society where everything is so convenient, where everything is so easy, why would you not, whether it's right or not, aside for a second, why would you not expect everything to be easy? Why would you not resent adversity if you're somebody who's always been given what he needs?
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to, I remember that Carrie Colott story. Right? Carrie Colott, the wrestler.
Yep.
He was on the Warrior Symposium Power Program on the Warrior Project site a few months ago. He tells a story about being at the wrestling championships in like Siberia or something. And he had to shower after a workout. And he was at the facility there with all the wrestlers from around the world. And he goes into the locker room and he puts the shower on, and he's waiting for the shower to get hot. And it never does. It stays freezing. So he's like, fuck. So he eventually like jumps in real quick and showers real quick and jumps out, just miserable. Then a couple of minutes later, one of the Mongolian wrestlers has to shower. And what he does is he puts the shower on, he gets in the shower, takes a shower, and at no point did he ever even expect there to be hot water. Didn't even expect there to be hot water. Just put the water on, got in the water, and showered. Didn't, make any faces, didn't resent the fact that, like, it is what it is, and it's just, it's a way to be, we look at life that way. Things tend to be, they tend to be a little bit simpler, but usually more powerful as a result, All right. He also says it's all temporary, and therein lies the value. Well, it's a basic, the concept of scarcity. If you lived forever, what would actually be the value of a day? But if you only had one day left to live, think about how valuable that day would be, right? So look at the two extremes.
Yeah.
And if we live a life like we're going to live forever, we wind up forgetting to live, and we run out of time before we do. What else? All right, look at the. All right, so I don't know.
I was watching Troy with Isaiah. Solid.
Troy.
Yeah.
Troy is a fucking solid movie, man. You know, I got to tell you, when I first saw Troy, I didn't really like it, to be honest. And, you know, I was on that whole, the book is different. And, you know, like, I was on that bullshit. But Troy has definitely grown on me, and to the point where I love watching. Whenever it's on, I watch it. I hate the actor that played, what the hell's his name? The
Paris?
King? No, not Paris. The King. Agamemnon.
Oh, you don't like him?
I can't stand that actor.
That's funny.
But irrelevant, right? Like,
Yeah.
fucking Brad Pitt is solid in that. The guy that plays Hector, what's that actor's name?
Eric Bana.
Eric Bana. He played the terrible Hulk movie, right? He was in the bad Hulk movie.
Yeah.
You know, he was great in it. Even Paris, even though he's a bitch, like, the guy played a good bitch. Like,
Yeah.
it was an enjoyable movie. You know what I saw? I just finished watching last night again, The Matrix, the original Matrix.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, man, such a fucking good movie.
Yeah, the first one's solid, man.
Oh, fucking solid. I don't know about the other ones. It's funny because it was all a blur, you know, like all the movies, the different Matrix movies, so I didn't know which was in which. But, like, in the first one, he realizes he's the one. He has that moment with them at the end. I'm like, oh, it's all there.
Yeah.
Like, you really almost don't even need to know anything. Everything else is just, like, storytelling. You know, it almost seemed like they were making sequels to make sequels.
Yeah, they could have ended it there. I think the second and third one, it's almost a combo movie. It's not as good.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like they just wanted to get another check, you know, because the first one is completely, like, soup to nuts, its own arc that stands on its own, you know?
Well, they both still had dicks when they made that one.
It's true. It's true. Take care of the balls and, you know.
Cut off their dicks, so I don't know what happened after that.
You know, the juice is not worth the squeeze.
Yeah, both of them did it too. How crazy is that?
Very crazy. It's extremely crazy, actually.
Definition of crazy.
It is extremely crazy. Tonight I like this. I'm about to watch a movie tonight. I'm almost embarrassed to admit this. Turns out I conflated a couple of movies in my memory, and I thought I had seen this movie, and then I researched it and realized I never did. For the first time tonight, I just downloaded a legal copy. I'm going to watch Last of the Mohicans.
Oh, wow. Yeah?
I have never seen that movie.
You're going to fucking love that movie.
Oh, my. I'm so looking forward to it. I was going to watch it
movie.
last night. I fell asleep. I wrote the
got a
email
great
this
ending.
morning. It got what?
A great ending scene.
Yeah, all right. Well,
I'm not saying anything else. That's
don't do that because you're terrible with that shit.
big as it could possibly be. It's got a scene in it that shit happens that's awesome.
I'm not going to ruin anything. Let me just tell you the plot.
Yeah.
But I'm going to watch that tonight.
You're going to like that one.
All right. So, Beard says, original Matrix blew my mind back then. It was awesome. Yeah, fucking great movie. Big Nate. He said, that's why they will never remember your name. Obviously, my favorite scene in Troy. Because so fucking powerful. It's like, you know, when you know, the warriors throughout history, or a lot of our friends, you know, it's like, and then you compare how they live with all these other people that are trying to fucking live forever. It's just like you get disgusted with the latter group, you know, because it's not even, it doesn't even logically make sense, you know. The Braveheart speech in Braveheart obviously is perfect because he's saying, like, listen, if you go and don't fight, yeah, you'll probably live, you know, but when you're on your deathbed, it's like, because there will be a deathbed, by the way, you're not going to live forever. Like, won't you look back at this, like, say, fuck it, you know, I probably should have done something then instead of living, you know, another 40 years like a bitch.
Yeah.
You know?
Even in Troy, like, Achilles goes on that mission because he knows he's going to die. That's what he was told. You can stay home and live forever and live a long life, or you can go on this journey. You will die, but you will be, you know, a legend. He's like, next scene, he's on a boat, like, it cuts, and he's on the fucking boat. Like, there's no, like, shit.
Absolutely. Big Ness. What's up, Ness? I haven't seen Ness in a while. Just got into Marco Polo on Netflix about the Mongols. I love Marco Polo. I just found out not too long ago they fucking they stopped.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
I saw the same article. I couldn't believe that it was A, people didn't like it, and B, it got canceled. I thought that show was fucking great.
Such a good show. I'm the one that told you about the show. I think
100%.
Such a fucking good show, man.
I binge watched both seasons.
Say again?
I said I missed out on the first season. The second season had came out. I watched them both together.
Yeah, it's such a good show, man. Such a good show. All right. This is all you, Pat.
Okay.
Get it.
Kids today are really suffering because of the softness of society. I was in the smithy working on some steel. I asked my nephew to run in the house and get a couple cold beers. He comes back a few minutes later with 2 warm beers right out of the case. He never bothered to look in the fridge. Never thought that maybe warm beers weren't the best idea. He had absolutely no shame in getting it wrong, even though it's a direct parallel with his own preference for cold sodas. Funny to see you using that cheap bamboo back scratcher because I was working on a good forged steel back scratcher when I got the warm beers. That's funny.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have a million of these. I have a back scratcher in my office, in my car, and I might have 2 in my car because one of them is in like a travel bag that I have, and I have 2 of them in my house because I cannot reach my fucking back. And when you got a hairy-ass Italian-blooded back, shit gets itchy during the summer. Anyway.
That's the other quote we just wrote. You won't have eyes tonight. You won't have ears or a tongue. You will wander the underworld, blind, deaf, and dumb. And the devil will know this is Hector, the fool who thought he killed Achilles. That's a good line.
So awesome. So
because he's like, can we have, if we kill whoever dies, we'll do all the funeral rites. And he's like, no, fuck you. Like, I'm going to fucking murder you. And that's it. Go fuck yourself.
That's right. So, talking about, Vaughn's nephew, the idea, and we've luckily, I would say, because people have gotten a head start on this, we've really lately been driving home this idea of honor versus shame. And, the way I put it the other day to somebody was, I shame you so I don't have to punish you. I punish you so I don't have to exile you. I exile you so I don't have to kill you. And that is why mocking the weak is so important. That's why having people understand at the earliest age possible that there are things you are going to do in the tribe that will have you rewarded socially, and there are things that will have you punished socially through mocking. Now, the things that you do that pursue that favorable feedback or reaction or benefit from the tribe is exactly how we measure honor. It's what is honorable. It's those things that you do that everybody in your tribe sees as being congruent with the tribe's mission, right? It's the husband that provides for the family. It's the mother that provides and nurtures the newborn. It's the soldier who follows his orders. It's the maid who, I like that, soldier maid. I didn't mean to do that switch, but it's the maid who cleans to the point where, they act like it's their house, because they just have a belief in who they are. I remember, I don't think it was on a live stream. I think it might have been one of the guys here at the school was asking me about, one of my guys, I'm not going to shout him out, but he was saying, he had just finished school and he had gotten a job, and he was asking me, he was like, what do you think about, if I'm at my job and the guy asks me, to do something that's not part of my job. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Is he asking me to work more, like longer hours? He's like, no, but, my job title is this, and he's asking me to do something else. And I said, well, do you like this job? Are you going to keep this job? And he happened to say, well, no, I just graduated school, and this is a job that's going to give him the experience to get another job. I said, is your job title at this job going to be what's going to impress the next person as far as getting experience? He said, yeah. I said, well, then do whatever your fucking boss asks you. All you need is a reference, right? If you're not working more time than what the fuck do you care what you're doing? You know,
Yeah.
you're gonna get the job is doing what you need it to do, right? You're getting, and most of the time he's doing what he was hired to do. But other times he's asked to do other things. And I told him, I said, those other things that you do, not only is it negligible based on how he described his boss breaks up his day, but I said, no matter what you do it like somebody's going to look at this and be impressed. And the standards that you hold for yourself are higher than anybody else's standards could possibly be for you. So if you've committed yourself or obligated yourself to the task, then don't do a lesser version of the task. You know, don't do a shitty interpretation of who you are just because you don't like the job that, by the way, you agreed to do, right? No matter what it is that you do, you want to make sure that you're doing it honorably, that you're doing it with your legacy in mind, because it is, right? Your reputation is basically your living legacy. That's what your reputation is. When you pass, your legacy is going to be the reputation that sort of sustains the timeline, you know. But if you're somebody who's going to do a job and you've agreed to do it, then you have to do it to the best of your ability. The nephew example that Vaughn gave of going to get warm beers, again, you remove consequence, you remove, why should they learn about honor? Why should they learn about consequence? Why should they learn about mocking? The reason is, in this society, in the aquarium, in this day and age, they don't even need to, right? They don't need to. So the problem is, because you have the governments supporting people, because you have this just overpopulated, overburdened reality, they're really never going to see, chances are they're never going to see the consequences of not having these traits, in a more functional, natural setting. And whenever they do run into that later in life, they're fucked, and that's the thing. And the whole thing is, we talk about the aquarium, like, well, if they don't have to develop that ability, or they don't have to develop that, that personal code, then why develop it at all? Because the whole thing is, just like the aquarium, all this shit only works if the hand comes in a couple times a day and sprinkles the food on top of the water. Yeah. Like, that's the only way it works. So you are relegating yourself to that role. Like me, my skills are very much developed and honed in an urban environment. Assuming that the language isn't an issue, I can go to probably any urban environment on the planet and be able to track dynamics and energy amongst people that somebody who grew up in a more rural or country area is oblivious to. I remember when our brother Ryan Price came to visit me. He had to stop to visit a friend of ours in Long Island or in Manhattan, and he stopped at the school here in the Bronx. And Ryan's from the Poconos, up from where I live, and I got to say, seeing him walk down the city block had to be him looking at me walking through the woods. Like,
yeah, that's funny.
It was the same fucking thing, because he seemed just as out of place. He was figuring it out, like I figure it out, but wasn't raised doing that. It wasn't prepared for that. But the thing is, I'd much rather have the ability to walk through the woods than to walk through a city, But it really speaks to, what is it that we're in tribe keeping as honorable? Do we have those processes by which we install, these values in people and give them some form of consequence when they move away from it, right? That's something that we constantly have to ask ourselves.
Yeah, and you're preparing them, because what happens if they don't get that? Then they're in a room with serious men and they say something off, and then what happens? They pay a much bigger consequence.
One says, full disclosure, my nephew's father's a diehard liberal Democrat. Makes sense.
Well, there you go.
You don't got to learn anything. They'll all take care of you anyway. Awesome. Shoot me a PM and I'll send you some quality Ford steel back scratchers. Vaughn, that is so done.
Awesome.
Very cool. Very cool. Angel Luis Lopez Garcia. Angel, you need more names. Unless it's like 3 of you there. It's like, like sometimes a husband and wife share an account. This is like him and like 4 of his friends sharing an account. I'm fucking with you, Angel. Angel, I'm fucking with you. So he goes, right. I always say, even if you're handing out coffee out of a drive-through window, do it with conviction or quit. You don't have to do anything you don't want. Absolutely right.
Yeah, 100%.
And the thing is, whatever it is that you're doing it's being done by you. And, this gets back to master morality. Why are you comparing what it is that you're doing to the standards of other people, or your disdain, or just, indifference to other people? Why is, how you're going to do a task that you've obligated yourself to do, by the way? Why is it that your personal standards for who you are not the only things you're paying attention to? Because none of that other shit matters, all right? Anything that you do should be done to the best of your ability. Why? Because it is a reflection upon you to you. And that's the whole thing. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur. I don't get up and work as much as I do because somebody will yell at me if I don't, because I have to, a boss that I have to appease, I'm going to get fired. I do it because I am a self-starter. I do it because my standards for who I am demand that I do this for myself, right? But even if you work for somebody, you're an employee, that means absolutely nothing. Your standards should still exceed the standards or expectations of your employer. Why?
100%.
Because anything that you do is being done by you. And if somebody were to ask, right, if you were to ask yourself, what is the value of me? Am I valuable or not? Am I somebody of substance or not? Am I reliable or not? Do I exhibit all the virtues that I hold dear or not? And if the answer is yes to all those things, then why would you do a shitty job in anything that you've obligated yourself to do? You just concluded that you're all these different things. You just concluded that you're this level of individual. Why would that level of individual do a sub fucking capable job? It makes no sense. Right?
It doesn't. You get too many people doing that, especially in college. You see the kids that go into college, they're treating it like high school. It's like, why the fuck are you here? You're paying for this. And you don't give a fuck, It makes no sense.
Right. Beard says, mindset means a lot. Absolutely. Herman says, mindset is the foundation for any endeavor. A poor mindset only sets you up for failure. Right? It's basically where, your mindset is if you think about like a rifle, where are you pointing the fucking barrel? Where are you pointing the barrel? If your target is your mission, where are you pointing it? Mindset is like having, fucked up sights or, fucked up vision or, just reducing yourself to some lesser level of productivity than what's possible. We've spoken about earlier how, obviously there's some things we can control, some things we can't. The universe will have its balance. And sometimes that's at your expense. Right? Sometimes your account is cashing a check that somebody else wrote. Right?
Yeah.
It is what it is. But mindset is a full commitment, number one, as far as intent is concerned, but also the development and ability of one's grasping the opportunity to be a complete version of themselves. Right? So if I have a certain, let's say if I had to jump, right? And I was doing a vertical jump. And my highest jump, let's just say, is 30 inches off the ground. Vertical jump, 30 inches. Well, that I would say is my best version of my jump. My potential is 30 inches in that vertical jump. If I jump 20, I know that I'm off. If I jump 10, I know that I'm off. If I jump 5, I got to ask myself, am I even trying to jump? Well, mindset allows us to stay connected to that. It allows us to acknowledge, when it is I'm only jumping 15 when I should be jumping 30, or when I can jump 30. It's keeping me in touch. And that's very much what LOT is also. LOT is the same process of assessing, wait a minute, I could jump 30 and I only jumped 10. Am I blaming an external source for something that I should be doing? Right? That is the process of how mindset helps you. it really gives you a complete, accurate assessment of where you need to go, where you are, and how much you are staying on track in the pursuit of that mission. You know? All right. What else? I think we're going to call it there.
Solid.
Fuck, man. I got to say, since we started doing the man codes, the episodes have been a little bit shorter, but because there's so much fucking content packed into it, typical radio format that we've run for a while now is basically just get on and talk about, current events. But, I like the fact that, we have we're sharing a little bit more prepared, information and material, It's definitely more power per minute, right? So let's call it there. I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us on a Wednesday afternoon. You guys know the website is thepressureproject.com. I'll tell you what, if you're listening this long through the program, whether you're doing it live or you're listening to the audio later on, do us a favor. Go on iTunes and give us a review. If you like it, give us a 5-star review. If you don't like it, give us a 5-star review. If you write something down, even better. Make sure it's nice, or my feelings will be hurt. You don't want to do that. You guys know how emotional I get. But aside from that, I appreciate you guys. Without you guys consuming the material, there wouldn't really be a reason for us continuing to generate it and put it out there. So we appreciate you guys for that. Last announcement, the Bronx Strangler is up. If you go to thepressureproject.com and look under Power Programs, it is there. Every one of the Power Programs is available for purchase separately. The cost is $47, which happens to be the cost of 1 month of membership. The difference between the two is like, well, why are you even selling it if it's the same thing as a month of membership? Well, the thing is, the month of membership, at the end of the month, you lose access if you don't continue. Whereas if you buy the program, you'll always have a login to be able to view the program. So that's the major difference between the two. But whether you are getting access to the Power Program, the Bronx Strangler, or you are joining to get access, either way, it's an incredible program. I'm very, very happy with the way it wound out. And so far, I've been getting very, very good feedback, which is awesome. All right, I'm rambling. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching. And as always, brothers and you sisters that are on there, pressure to power.